Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. Okay, Erev Tov, everyone. Good to see everybody again. I hope everybody had a wonderful Pesach vacation, or vacation, holiday, whatever you want to call it. Many people don't refer to it as a vacation. But it is tonight, Thursday night, Rosh Chodesh Iyar. B'ezrat Hashem, we are in the season of Pirke Avot, of the ethics of the fathers, 6 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot, where we get ready for Matan Torah and we work on ourselves. We work on our midot, we work on everything in our life to make our lives better, to make ourselves better in preparation for Talmud Torah, which will be B'ezrat Hashem, holiday time, Shavuot. We are 2 weeks into the Omer, so 5 weeks left, B'ezrat Hashem. Tonight's shiur is graciously dedicated and sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Jacques Ben Shimon, as well as Mr. and Mrs. Leon Ben Chabo, in memory of their mother, Rika Ben Shimon Zichrona Yivracha, and as well, Refuah Shlema, Hachana Bat Rivka. So the words of Torah, Bilu Nishmat, their mom, and as well for Refuah Shlema, for the Chola, and V'gam Kol Cholei Amo Yisrael B'ezrat Hashem. Already we have... I'm starting on we're on the second chapter because there was very little time to talk about the first chapter because Perek Rishon was only one day after Pesach. So unfortunately we missed talking about Perek Rishon. This coming Shabbat we're reading Perek Sheni. And I've already went last year to talk about the first Mishna in Perek Sheni by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And now we are into the second Mishnah. So I ask everybody that is here, I ask everybody that's listening live online, I ask everybody that is listening in the future, if you want to hear Mishnah Aleph, the first Mishnah, which we spoke about, you can go online, you can check it out on YouTube and wherever you hear your podcast, and you can find the information. So we're studying today Mishnah Bet of Perek Bet, the second Mishnah of the second chapter of Pirke Avot. So I'll read it, I'll translate it, and then we'll talk about it. So the Mishnah says, Rabban Gamliel beno shel Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi Omer. Rabban Gamliel, who was the son of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, said, Yafeh Talmud Torah im derech eretz. Good is the study of Torah, law, with derech eretz. We're going to see what this means. Sheyegiat shenehem meshakachat avod. Because the toil of both of them causes sin to be forgotten. Mishnah continues, V'chol Torah she'en ima melacha, sofa betela v'goreret avon. And any Torah study that is not accompanied with work is destined to cease, to be cancelled, and causes sin. V'chol ha'amelim ima tzibur, those who work for the community should do so for the sake of heaven. For the merit of their ancestors shall aid them, and their righteousness shall endure forever. As for you, I will ascribe unto you ample reward. Ke'ilu asitem, as if you had done it yourself. Okay, so this is the Mishnah, the second Mishnah of Pirke Avot, of Perek Bet. So let's talk a little bit about the opening line. Rabban Gamliel, the author of this Mishnah, being the son of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was actually the author of the first Mishnah in the chapter. I want you to think about the greatest invention that you know of. Whatever it is in your head, the greatest invention that you remember. We have people here from different ages and of different decades. The greatest invention. And I want you to think of the inventor, the person that actually invented that. Or if you don't know the actual person that invented it, okay, just think in your mind about this person. Now think about the hours that this person must have put in creating that invention. Let's take the computer, the first ever computer. The person that invented that computer, how much time and effort it would take him to invent that computer. Now imagine that you were the son of that inventor. And think, what would you have seen your father or your mother inventing this machine or this invention? What are you witnessing day in and day out? Rabban Gamliel was the son of one of the biggest inventors. I want to call inventors, maybe the wrong word, but of the biggest authors, creators, compilers in history. Of course, his father, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, compiled the Mishnayot, the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, which was a lifelong project, for sure, to gather thousands, to cipher through thousands of, if not tens of thousands, Ma'amarei Chazal, statements of our rabbis, and decide which one is going to go into the Mishnah and which one is not going to go to the Mishnah. It's a life mission, which makes Rabban Gamliel and the statements that he said in this Mishnah much more palpable, much more meaningful, much more important. Rabbi Yehuda, his father, was actually very wealthy. He was a wealthy individual, which is probably one of the reasons why he was able to maintain such a close relationship with the Roman Emperor, Antoninus. You got to sometimes the big guys hang around with the big guys. Okay, and that's often what happens. Which means he worked to build his wealth. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, to become wealthy, you got to work to build your wealth. So what he saw, what his son saw, was the epitome of what it means to not waste time. The greatest people, the ones that are most influential, I've said this many times before, they don't sit on their sofa all day. They don't sit and just relax. They study and they work. When your day is filled, not only are you more successful, but as well as you don't have any time to sin. Because the sin itself is forgotten. I spoke about over Pesach, and I quoted the Kotzker Rebbe of one of his interesting way of understanding the pasuk Sur Mera Va'aseh Tov, refrain from bad and do good. And he said that the way to refrain from bad is by doing good, because when you're constantly engaged in positive action and mitzvot and Torah, productivity, you can't help but stay away from evil, because there's no time to do evil. So hence, his opening statement of Yafed Talmud Torah im derech eretz shegiat shenehem meshakachat avon is that concept. The combination of the two is what helps you stay away from sin. We've translated derech eretz here, not the way we normally translate derech eretz. Derech eretz, all right, we grow up thinking derech eretz is being kind, being respectful, being considerate. Derech eretz, a person has to have derech eretz. That is the context when we translate Imen Torah and Derech Eretz, Imen Derech Eretz and Torah. In that situation, that's how most commentators translate that line, but not here. Here, Derech Eretz is referring to occupation and business. It's referring to your life work, your parnasah. But it's not a coincidence that the two terms are used for these ideas. Derech Eretz mean being kind, and Derech Eretz mean business. Because business and work, very good. Business and work require the most Derech Eretz, arguably, than any other part in life. Because it's during those moments when you are working that you are engaged and a part of a community of people that more than when you get home. When you get home, it's just your family. When you work, you have so many other people you have to deal with. Your coworkers, your colleagues, your bosses, the people that work under you. And as well, when you are in finances and trade and buying and selling, all the more so, we have the obligation to work with honesty and integrity and respect for colleagues and employees. So Derech Eretz being kind and considerate and Derech Eretz being business, yeah, they do go hand in hand. But Derech Eretz translated literally means the way of the land, the way of the world. Derech Eretz. And some want to say that Derech Eretz is, in this way of thinking, is that Hashem provides people through parnasah. He provides for people through business transactions. That's how he makes sure that everybody in the world is sustained. Noten lechem lechol basar, ki leolam chasto. Ki leolam, the world of olam is chasto, is recognizing his chesed that he does to everybody. You can have one person who is selling insurance. Okay, he's from Toronto. He's on a plane going to Chicago to do a business deal to sell insurance. At the same time that he's in the air, there's another guy from Chicago who's flying to Toronto to sell insurance to a guy who lives in Toronto. Now, how does that make sense? Hashem, that's Hashem running the world. That's the way of the world. And these two things combined help us forget sin. But notice that Rabban Gamliel says, Yafet Talmud Torah im derech eretz. Talmud Torah has to be with derech eretz. In other words, the Talmud Torah is the priority. And it's not the other way around. A Torah study has to be the main ingredient. Living a life of Torah is first in your trek to live a holy life, and that's not easy to do. It's not easy to do, to make that number one and your business number two. To balance the two requires a lot of effort and requires a lot of strain. And that's why I think that a lot of what I'm saying tonight is my own. That's why I think that the verb that's used is very appropriate. Sheyegiat shenehem mishakachat avon. What's sheyegiat shenehem? Yegiat shenehem means it's work. It's effort. It takes sweat. Yagata umatzata ta'amin. Right, that's how the saying goes. If you worked hard, you strived, and you reached it, then you could believe the person got there. So yegiat shenehem, because man is intrinsically lazy. We are born lazy. We are born from afar. Again, I spoke about this on Pesach. Out of the four elements that comprise man, afar, which is our main ingredient, is the only one that it's inanimate. The only one that doesn't move. Water, fire, and air all move from one place to another. But afar is stagnant. We were born from afar, we were created from the ground, and we will return to afar, ad me'ah v'esrim. It's the only element that can't move. So that means pushing. It means motivation. It means constantly moving forward. That's a yegiat shenehem of both the Torah and the derech eretz. That's what's going to bring us to forget sin. But it's not enough to simply study Torah. Maybe what the Tanakh is teaching us is that we have to put the teachings into our action, into our work. Whatever you gained from a shi'ur, whatever you gained from a book, and something that inspired you, something that changed your life, something that you read, a story, they go, oh my goodness, that was unbelievable. It's taking that and implementing it in our work and our deeds. And by doing so, we make a very, very big positive impact in the world that we live in. And it makes our lives more purposeful and more meaningful. It's lilmod kedei lelamed. It's learning in order to teach, and it's order lishmor, and then velasot, to observe and then to do. We have to act with Torah values as well in our business. And just because I go to business and I go to work doesn't mean I forget of everything that I learned. Some people unfortunately do that. It's like, the big scholars, they learn whatever, and then they get to the work, and then you wouldn't even think that they're a Jew. The way they talk, the way they dress. I don't know what it is, but it's bad manners. But they seem to forget. Rabbi Yoel Gold, very recently, just a few months ago, produced a movie that was shared pretty much around the Jewish world, where he interviewed the mensch of Malden Mills. That was the name of the video, and of a man who in the 1970s, the biggest textile factory in Massachusetts and I think in the United States burned down, and he did the unthinkable. He kept every employee on the payroll and paid for them. We all saw the video. It was really a touching, heartwarming story. Like, it brings tears to my eyes. And this man was not a religious man. All right, he was a Jew, but he wasn't a religious man. The one thing that he remembered was Bimkom she'ena nashim mishtadel liot ish, a passage in Pirke Avot, when there was no man, strive to be a man, and he felt that was his opportunity to live up to what his father taught him. So even when he went to business, he didn't forget this few teachings that he learned with his dad or in school. It's something they took with him, and it was more. And I remember them interviewing him and he said, you could have made millions of dollars with insurance. He says, for what? For what? So I could buy a new suit, right? So I can buy a better home. What's the point? He understood that the people looked up to him. It's tremendous chidush Hashem. So too with our business, right? Don't make the two separate. It's Yafeh Talmud Torah im derech eretz. They have to go together. You hear a good drasha, the rabbi said a good Devar Torah, you read something nice in a book, you have to apply those principles. Because doing so, combination of the Torah and the derech eretz will prevent you from sinning. The idea that too much free time can lead to sin is based on the belief that when individuals have too much unstructured time on their hands, that's when they become bored. That's when they sit idle. So it leads them to engage in activities that are considered sinful and immoral. Often this happens with people that lack direction, lack purpose in their lives. And they're left with very little to do but to indulge in behaviors that might be harmful to others or to themselves. If someone has too much free time, they can turn to excessive drinking. They can turn to drugs, gambling, or other activities that are considered very harmful to the person. They can engage in activities that are immoral, unethical. They start cheating in business. They start cheating on their spouse. They start lying. They start stealing. This all is a result because they have too much free time. They also become self-absorbed. They focus on their own desires and their own wants, and they start neglecting the needs of others. Obviously, because too much free time means you're not out there in the world. And then what ends up happening is your behavior turns into a selfish one. It's self-centered, and that becomes harmful to the relationships with your family and relationships with your friends, and it breaks up many social bonds that we have. Now, that doesn't mean that free time is a bad thing totally. There are a lot of benefits to free time. It's important to relax. It's important to pursue hobbies, take a stroll along the lake or along the beach. That's important, vacation. And I'm not here going on a rant saying that we should have not even 1 minute of free time. It's, we'll leave that for the big tzaddikim. It's good to have free time. But it's when free time is coupled with lack of purpose or direction that becomes problematic. If I'm going on vacation because I need to wind down so that I can go back and push hard, then your vacation has a purpose. So therefore, we need to find the balance in life and ensure that the free time that we have is used constructively, and whether it's through volunteering, which we'll talk about later, or new skills, engaging in healthy activities. The Gemara teaches in Masechet Kiddushin that idleness leads to averot, leads to chet. And that statement implies that when a person has too much free time and is not engaged in these productive activities, they're more likely to fall into sinful behavior. Shlomo HaMelech very famously quotes in Mishle, Mit'ava va'ayin nafsho atzel. The soul of the lazy man desires and has nothing. V'nefesh charutzim tedushan. But the soul of the diligent ones, they're going to be made rich. So when a person is idle and lazy, he's not going to find satisfaction in life. It's going to be desires of vanity, of worthlessness. But when they're diligent, when they're engaged in meaningful activities, that's when they're going to find fulfillment. I would be remiss if I don't quote the famous Rambam in Yesodei Torah, where he says the following, Yeichot Talmud Torah, sorry. He says, I'm going to read it because every word is gold. Kol ha-mesim al libo sheya'asok b'Torah. Anyone who comes to the conclusion that he should learn Torah or involved in Torah, himself in Torah, velo ya'aseh melacha, and not do work, v'yitparnes min hatzedakah, and derive his livelihood from charity, if this is the way you're thinking, harei zeh chilel et Hashem, you are desecrating God's name, uviza et haTorah, and you are dishonoring the Torah, v'chiba me'or hadat, you are extinguishing the light of faith, v'garam ra'a le'atzmo. It's a key line right there, because he brings evil upon himself, obviously through sin. V'natal chayav min ha'olam haba, and forfeits the life of the world to come. Lefi she'asur lehanot midivrei Torah ba'olam hazeh, and the reason is because it's forbidden to derive benefit from the words of Torah in this world. Amru Chachamim, he quotes Mishna, Pirke Avot, the fourth parak, Kol hanehene midivrei Torah natal chayav min ha'olam, that anybody that benefits from the words of Torah forfeits his life in this world. Ve'od, tzivu ve'amnu, another in that same Mishnah, al ta'asem atara leitgadel bahen, don't make the words of Torah a crown to magnify yourself. Ve'lo kardom lachpor bahen, or an axe to chop with, meaning don't use it for your own benefit. Ve'od, another one we read last week's perek, ehov et hamelacha, love work, usna et harabanut, and despise rabbinic positions. And then he quotes our Mishnah, V'chol Torah she'en ima melacha, sofa betela ve'goreret avon, that any Torah that does not come and are not accompanied with work will be negated and will lead to sin. And that will ultimately lead a person to do horrible things, steal from others, so on and so forth. So when a person has too much free time and he only focuses on work and worldly pursuits, then you neglect the spiritual side of life. And if you only pursue only Torah without work, then you're going to be left with free time, and that free time is going to lead you to averot. So therefore, you have to find the combination of both. And plus, we have this Jewish concept, not Jewish, yeah, it is a Jewish concept, imitated by the non-Jews, of tikkun olam. Tikkun olam is our individual job to rectify the world. Each one of us is here for a purpose. The world, as we know it today and for all the years in its existence after the sin of Adam HaRishon, has been stained, has been damaged, and it is our job to repair it. And we do that through mitzvot u'ma'asim tovim. Some of us, all of us, have come back many, many times in this world as reincarnations in a different body to try to repair what previous people have done. But that the whole concept of tikkun olam emphasizes the importance of engaging in productive activities to make the world a better place. When a person is idle and he's just sitting and doing nothing, and that's what his life is all about, then they're not contributing to this goal. And they may be more likely to engage in selfish or harmful behavior. So the first part of the Mishnah deals with this concept of, again, the combination of Torah and Derech Eretz, and again, Derech Eretz not being translated as being kind and considerate. That's reserved for another Mishnah, but rather the Derech Eretz of worldly matters, of going out into the world and working. The second part of the Mishnah deals with something that is, very important to me, which is working for the community. A person throughout his life, and we're going to see how it is connected. It's not just like two random statements that Rabban Gamliel said here. A person has to find time to work for the needs of the community. And I say this, it sounds like I say this confidently, and I do say it confidently, but you would think that it's so obvious, you would think that there's so many people that do so, but many people don't. People that serve the community are few and far between. You have to ask yourself, why is it? Why is it that 90% of any community, forget about Jewish community, any community, 90%, and I think it should be more, but let's say 90% are not working for the community. Why is that the case? They know it's important. They know You want to go help your institution, your synagogue, your church, your mosque, whatever it is that you belong to, your local school. Why is it that people would rather not do so?
Selfishness.
Selfishness. So I think the simple reason is because when you work for the community, it takes away from your own life. It takes away from your own private life. It takes away from my own private business, from my parnasah. If I need to devote 4 hours a week or 10 hours a month to my synagogue, that's 10 hours a month that I'm not by my business, that I cannot prosper my business, help my business grow. If I help the synagogue, I can't focus on my work. So that's why Hashem knows that person is going to think this, and He promises us that He's going to receive heavenly assistance. He says, you're going to get a lot of reward for doing this. What's the connection to the first part of the Mishnah with the whole thing with Torah and work? Because working for the community is totally extra. It's something that I don't have to do. I have to go and get a job and work and provide for myself and my family. That's something that I need to do. But working for the community means that I'm sacrificing my free time. And we learn that free time leads to sin. So therefore, you have free time. If that's something you realize you have free time, go work for the community. If after your job and your Torah learning, you still look at the clock and you say, I have free time, the Rabban Gamliel tells us, I got something for you to do. Go call up the local school, go look up the yeshiva, go call up the synagogue, the office, go to the hospital. I bet you they have stuff for you to do. What does it mean to work for the community? The verb in the Mishnah that I quoted is v'chol ha'amelim im hatzibur. Amelim, again, effort and hard work. This verb, amelim im hatzibur, is often associated with the study of Torah as well. Very famously, Rashi writes in the opening pasuk of Parashat Bechukotai, Im bechukotai telechu, if you will follow and walk with my chukim, sheyu amelim baTorah. That's what he says. That means you have to engage deeply in the Torah. This is the most famous speech of any Rosh Hashiva. Any Rosh Hashiva, this is the number one speech. Sheyu amelim baTorah. It's not just learning. It's engrossed in the text, sweating over the text. Zot HaTorah, Adam ki yamut ba'ohel. Torah shememit atzmo alea. You're killing yourself over it. I'm focused. My whole body is into it. In other words, sheyu amelim means that the best form of community service is Torah-oriented, if you can. Sit and teach. Sit and direct someone. You can't teach a Gemara. Rabbi, I can't teach a Gemara. I don't know how to teach a Gemara. This guy here is next. Yeah, but you know the tefillot, right? He goes, yeah, I know tefillot. Okay, help the person with the tefillot. Teach him. Sit next to him. Show him a sidur. Okay, we're now, turn the page. Jump over here. Now we're here. I read a biography over Pesach, B'Chaim David HaLevi, which was chief rabbi of Tel Aviv. Big Gaon, a Sfaradi. It was given to me by my head of school, and he quotes something there that when he was in Yeshivat Porat Yosef, he would make sure, whether it was him or the Rosh Yeshiva, would make sure that there was always one rabbi who, when the minyan was going on, there was always be one rabbi that already prayed, and that rabbi was the disciplinarian, because boys sometimes lose focus and they talk, but also the one helping the boys and directing them to the tefillah, because he was allowed to talk. Everybody else, all the rabbis, they're in the middle of tefillah, they can't talk. It's a lot of ums. But if you have one rabbi that already prayed, okay, so he's there, he can actually talk to the person, he could tell him, hey, stop talking, turn to this page. Okay, so you have an opportunity here. I can't teach Gemara, I can't teach Chumash, I can't teach, but can you teach Tefillah? Sure. Help a person. Help a person in Ruchniut. Help him. That's a huge chesed. And it's one that's done l'shem shamayim. It has to be for the sake of God. Some texts, which is the way we have it in our Sephardic Sidurs, v'chol ha'oskim im hatzibur. You oskim imayim l'shem shamayim. Oskim also correlated to limud Torah. Our brothers, Ashkenazim, when they bless the Torah every morning, they don't say al divrei Torah like we do. They say la'asok bedivrei Torah. That's their text, their nusach. La'asok bedivrei Torah. So again, oskim, la'asok bedivrei Torah, it's engagement. Guess what esek means in modern day Hebrew? Esek. Business. Coincidence? La'asok. So the same verb that you're using for learning Torah is also the noun, the root of the noun of esek, which means business. Because like we said, the two go hand in hand. Your work, your derech eretz, your esek, yafet talmud Torah im derech eretz, with your business. The two concepts go hand in hand.
So, excuse me, what's the value the individual that only studies Torah the whole day, and those that mix avodah and limud Torah? What's the value? Difference in value?
There's no difference in value. There's no difference in value. Today we have a lot of thousands of Jews that study in Kollel all day. And they are supported from the community. The supported community. Many will argue that based on the words of the Rambam that I quoted earlier, what they're doing is incorrect. Because there were many Tanaim and Amoraim in the time of the Mishna and Gemara, scholars much greater than anybody else living today, okay, that worked, that had jobs. They had jobs for a little bit, like it wasn't their whole day, it was an hour or two to make enough to survive, okay, and then they went to learn, which is not really taken place by many of the people learning in Kollel. Some will argue that's only if you don't find a Zevulun, someone to mamash support. But if there is a Yisachar Zevulun concept. Yisachar Zevulun concept of one person that is learning and the Zevulun who is supporting the Yisachar, and they both share the equal reward. And if you can find that person to do so, and a person can learn Torah without interruption and doesn't need to go and fetch for a parnasah, then he should do so. And again, there's two sides to this argument. It's a never-ending argument. And, there are, again, the right-wing Charedim hold strongly that learning Kollel, if someone can support you, then Talmud Torah keneged kulam. And there's nothing greater than learning Torah. And there are many, many others that hold differently and says, listen, Torah has to be the fundamental part of your life, but it has to go together with work based on this Mishnah and based on the Rambam. We'll end with the following idea. He says in the Mishnah, work l'shem shamayim, kol ha'melim im hatzibur yu ha'melim l'shem shamayim, shezechut avotam mesaye'atam. Because the merit of your fathers, your forefathers, your ancestors, will assist you, will aid you. V'tzidkatam omedet la'ad. What is Zechut Avot? Zechut Avot is a concept that we've spoken about in the past. How the actions of my ancestors and my forefathers actually have an impact on my life. And for the good and for the not good. The span of goodness is much, much greater. Noser chesed la'alafim. Noser chesed la'alafim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides chesed for thousands of generations. I mean, somebody that lived 1,000 years ago can have an effect on my life, on something that he did. When it's the other way around, it also works, but it's only al shilashim v'aribeim nesonei. It's only 3 or 4 generations. But Zechut Avot is that concept of there's a merit. It's the easiest answer to give when someone asks, why does that guy so wealthy? Why does he have it so good if he doesn't do anything to please Hashem? Because of the past. It is the answer that everybody gives. Because of the past. This person must have had some tzaddik or great-grandfather that was a big chassid and gadol. The problem is that this person is using up all those merits.
All the way around.
Right? When you use up all those merits, it's affecting your life in the next world. That's for a different time. But that's Zechut Avot. So Rabban Gamliel ben Osher Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is telling us that there's a special Zechut Avot. There's a special Siyata Dishmaya, a heavenly assistance that comes when a person works for the Sibur. And I can tell you firsthand that I was part of many, and still am part of many community events that were nowhere near to be ready, complete, successful, based on timelines, based on everything that was going on. And somehow, some ways, it works out. And it's inexplainable how this happened. We're deadlines. We have to get it done, but I can't get it done. There's no way it's going to work. Have faith. And you're working for the Sibur, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps. These programs became beacons of success. How did it happen? Zechut Avot. That's what the Mishna is telling you. When you're working for the Sibur, L'Shem Shamayim, Zechut Avotam Mesayatam. Individuals who come from a line of ancestors who were known for their acts of communal service and kindness, they feel their own obligation to continue that tradition. My father worked on the Chevra, so I'm going to be part of the Chevra Kadisha. My father helped in the hospital, I'm going to go help Bikur Cholim. My mother was baking chalot for people that didn't have money, so I'm going to bake chalot for people that need. And they're engaging in public service themselves. So Zechut Avot can also be a very powerful motivator for individuals to get involved in their communities and work towards positive change. And on the negative side, on the flip side, individuals that come from a line of ancestors who were known for their negative actions or behaviors, then they may feel a sense of shame or guilt that could hinder their ability or their willingness to go and help out and engage in public service. And if a person comes from these types of families who are known for negative actions towards other people, certain groups of people, and they're going to face challenges in gaining trust from the modern day, your present day community and building relationships. So why should I trust you? You know who your father was? You know what he did? He didn't care for the community. He was never here when we needed him. So I'm going to trust you. So it's up to you to rebuild that reputation. And what's the reward? The reward is, V'atem, if you're wondering, even though they're going to be the ones that are going to help you, Rabban Gamliel tells you, V'atem, he ends the Mishnah, Ma'aleh ani alechem sachar arbe, ke'ilu asitem. I will ascribe to you lots of reward as if you had done it yourselves. Ke'ilu asitem. On a simple level, the reward is going to be so abundant, it's going to be as if you did the whole thing yourself, and now you're receiving all the credit. Right? That's, on a pashut level, what's going on here. But I think there's much more, a much more eye-opening idea here. But you just got to look carefully in the words. Maybe we can say that the beauty of it all is that the reward isn't the end product. Because sometimes my community service does not have an end. Sometimes it doesn't work. Or I think it doesn't work. Because when you're working for a community, it doesn't matter to finish. Because I got news for you. You can't finish. You won't finish. There's no end to working for the Sibur. What you start is meant to continue to the next generation. Just like your father and grandfather and the ancestors that preceded you started for you. And that's why Hashem recognizes your work more than anybody else. Keilu asitem. It's as if you did it. You didn't finish it. Because you can't finish it. You can't.
So that means it's very, very important to have grandfathers and ancestors that they were good.
Okay, yes. Sometimes you can't control it, right? Sometimes you can't control it. If it happened to be that, one of my great grandfathers was a Rasha, what am I supposed to do? I still have the obligation to serve Hashem. It definitely helps me with Pirke Avot. You know, the Torah tells us when Yitzchak and Rivka were both praying for a child. The Torah tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered Yitzchak and not Rivka. This is a hint in the pasuk. Vayate lo Hashem. Lo, him. Why him? And Rashi says because Yitzchak is Tzaddik ben Tzaddik and Rivka is Tzaddik ben Rasha. Rivka's father was an idol worshipper. Yitzchak's father was Avraham Avinu. So yeah, it helps to have Yitzchak praying on your side because he has Abraham also to help him push those tefillot through. But it doesn't mean that Rivka doesn't pray. Just because Rivka's father was Rasha, that doesn't mean she doesn't pray. She prays. But I think the main idea here is not to underestimate the power of our actions. Everything that we do can have a really, really a significant impact on the community around us, the world around us, tikkun olam. And it's up to us to take that responsibility for our actions and strive to make a positive difference. And I think this is very, very much relevant today, when it can be very overwhelming to feel problems. It could be overwhelming to hurdle over the challenges that we face in our world. And we probably say to ourselves, what can I do already? I'm just one person. What can me as an individual do in face of such immense challenges? Look at all the issues in this world. Look at the issues in the community, in the city. Who am I to make a change?
What happens if you do all the positive things, you don't get any result?
That's okay. HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at it as if ki'ilu asitem, as if you did it. Your reward will be there. Don't forget, that's another Mishna. Lo ha'melacha ligmor velo ata bechorin libatel mimena. That's referring to the Torah. It's impossible for you to finish, but at the same time, you're not a free man to just say, I'm not going to do anything, which has a direct correlation.
That's the concept that, I'm going to do a mitzvah, I'm going to do Bikur Cholim, and for some reason you are in
You're right.
It's valid.
It's valid. Schar halicha biyado.
Yeah.
But I think this Mishnah reminds us that even the small acts of work, of course, kindness and compassion, mamash has a ripple effect beyond ourselves. A smile, a kind word, a helping hand, helping somebody in synagogue, showing him the place, teaching them a Mishnah, teaching them a pasuk. These small gestures can really, really change the world. They can brighten someone's day. They can inspire someone to do good. And, they contribute to a larger culture of kindness and caring. Bezat Hashem, we should be zocheh to that. The Torah that we learn together, im derech eretz, with the business that we conduct, business with honesty and integrity and respect for other people, that combination is so powerful that we'll realize that our days are not enough time in our days, let alone free time. And if you have free time, if you're at the point where you have free time, Mishna tells you what to do. Go work for the community. Go make a difference. Bezat Hashem, through that, will be zocheh to Yeshua v'nechamot and all beracha v'atzlacha. Amen. Have a wonderful day, everyone.